usually.
So I know from your books that you've written about Afghanistan before, and you're someone who has extensive historical knowledge of this area. But when you watch what has been unfolding, and then a new commander coming along for ISAF, do you sort of look at this and think, for goodness sake, why don't these people learn from history?
Well, you just wish, if you know, in 2001, if some historian had been able to go into Downing Street or the White House and just give a 10-minute history lesson. Apparently, even as late as the 1950s, when Sir Alec Douglas Hume was taking over from Macmillan, he said, "Do you have any advice for me, sir?" The old outgoing Prime Minister said, "Dear boy, as long as you don't invade Afghanistan, you should do fine."
Clearly, no one
told Tony Blair.
Exactly. No one was really paying attention.
It never ends well. It never ends well.
So you've written about, I mean, that you know, a couple of centuries of the British in Afghanistan, and if you had to take away, let's say, I mean, you've got to reduce this.
This is a fat book.
to a couple of key points, if you could sit face to face with this commander and say, these are the key things you need to realise about this place.
Well, at this stage, it's really too late to do much. I mean, I think the Allies have made such a mess, and they've managed to alienate the Afghans. It's important to remember that in 2002, when the West first arrived in Afghanistan, the Taliban were absolutely hated. No one wanted them there, and there was no insurgency. And by staying in Afghanistan, by invading Iraq, by kicking Afghans around, particularly in the south and in Helmand and in the Pashtun heartlands, they've alienated a huge swathe, particularly the rural conservative population, who don't like foreign infidels any more than we would like Afghan policemen wandering around the streets of London.
Is that crucially what it's about?
I think the Afghans have traditionally always been very conservative, xenophobic, religious people. No one wants foreigners coming along their streets with guns, kicking their doors open, doing search operations, telling them they can't overtake on the roads because their tanks, are on the road. In a million ways, the Allies are now hated. And when people, I have cousins who've been working in Afghanistan for 20, 30 years with agriculture and stuff. And one particular cousin walked all around Helmand without a single guard, all during the 1990s and the early 2000s. We were not unpopular then. Now we are, deeply. And the reality is that for all the claims of success, a single Westerner cannot walk out of Kabul more than about 100 yards. You'll get killed immediately.
But there are those.
You can stay in the cities, but the countryside in the south is completely lost to us.
But William, there are those who would say Afghanistan needs help. The women of Afghanistan need support. There are so many different groups that have, varying angles.
Of course they do.
This.
I mean, it's one of the most desperately poor countries in the world. But the answer was not to send in 13 years of troops. What we should have done is we should have built roads, we should have built hospitals, we should have educated the people, and we didn't do that. Rumsfeld's particular policy is we do not nation build, he said.
Can the Afghans do it for themselves?
They have a chance. It's not, I mean, I'm not optimistic, and I don't think anyone is, to be honest. I think, last week, Karzai was here talking with Cameron, encouraging him to negotiate with the Taliban, who were the people we originally fought this entire war to get rid of. So I think everyone is pretty gloomy. But there is a chance that once the West goes, that Karzai will cease to be tainted by his association with the West, that he will no longer be seen as a puppet. And I think he does have a chance. When the Soviets went, Najibullah lasted much longer than anyone imagined. And when my guy, Shah Shuja, the centre of my book in the 1830s, when the British marched off to their destruction, 18,000 British men, women and children left Kabul on the 6th of January 1842, or one man made it through to Jalalabad only. At that point, Shah Shuja had another run of life, and had he not had some bad luck with an assassination with one of his own court, he could have survived. So I think it's a mistake to write off Karzai completely. But I think our own record in the country is tragically lamentable.
Have you sent, very quickly, have you sent General Dunford a copy?
No, but I know Karzai's already read it, because he's deeply haunted by the parallels. He's from the same tiny sub-tribe as the man the British put in the 1830s, the Poppleside tribe. So in many ways, it's exactly the same tribal war repeating itself. The people that brought Shah Shuja down in the 1830s, the Ghilzai, today make up the foot soldiers of the Taliban. Okay. So in some ways, it's history repeating exactly.
Thank you so much. Very enlightening stuff, William. Thank you.